Welcome, welcome. We'll get started. We'll give just a couple minutes for people to join in. When we do these lives in an event, sometimes it takes people a minute to find the live video. But we'll get started here shortly. And thanks for those who are making comments. Hello, Megan. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Dawn. Good to see you. Hello, Deborah. All right, before we get started, I'm just going to do my little introduction. For those who may be new here, my name is Julia Schwery. I'm one of ThermOWeb's educational designers on their fabric side. And as you can see, I have 2 video streams going on. So part of this will be, for the majority of this one actually, will be over at the station where you see the little donut pin cushion. There isn't too much sewing in this one for tonight, but there is a little bit, so I will move over to the smaller camera where you will see me stitching away a few things. And so yeah, there'll be times where I don't see the news feed, but Dawn here will help answer any questions you have, and I'll be sure to look at the feed periodically and at the end. Kathy is in Ohio. Me too. We got 10 inches on Sunday to Monday. I've been off school for 3 days. So far, it looks good. I'm going back to school tomorrow. So for those who don't know, I'm a school teacher as well. All right, so I'm going to move over to the other table, and we're going to get started. So I've been about 5 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes, and let's get to it. All right. So for tonight, we are making a lovely garland. I actually still had it on my wall. Brought it over here. I just pin things up with push pins, but so just a little example here. It's long. And we're going to make the whole thing here tonight. Another one. Even the pom-poms, I'm going to show you how I make those. And I do have a little gadget. You can make them without it, but I'm going to show you with the gadget. So let me get this untangled. So we'll get started. All right. So for this project, you can use, I did provide a template for the different heart and the teardrop shape. You are more than welcome to create your own, and then I give approximate inches, like if you're using scraps, you can kind of see you need at least 3.5 is kind of, I give quite a little bit of wiggle room with that. You could probably go with 3¼ inch squares and 4¼ and 2¼ and 1¼ I just gave a little wiggle room for that. I will be doing a little bit of wiggle room tonight with mine, how I cut it. So you'll want to get this pattern, which is available on the blog. There's the download is there, and cut out your shapes which I have already done. But before we cut anything out, we need to first stiffen our fabric. So for tonight, I'm using the SpraynBond fabric stiffener, and this will stiffen the fabric and it will make it almost feel paper-like depending on how much you use. But before we do that, since I'm doing it on my pressing mat, you'll want to make sure you have something to protect that. Even if you're doing it on, let's say, an ironing board or even just on a table or other kind of flat top surface, you're going to want to protect it. So what I'm using here is just a sheet. It's just a piece of, it's really, really thin, really cheap material that I found. I'm not even sure where it came from, but I found it. It's super cheap and thin, and I just doubled it up to protect my wool pressing mat. So you'll want to grab, I'm using a 10-inch square for this. I can get all the pieces I need from a 10-inch square if I cut it just shy of that 3.5, 4.5, 2.5, 1.5. But scraps work great for this. So I'm going to shake up, make sure that I've got nothing settled on the bottom of my fabric stiffener. And you'll want to hold it, 8 to 10 inches up. You don't want to hold it too close. You want it to be up pretty high, and you're just going to mist it. You don't want to saturate it. You're just going to kind of mist your fabric. And I'm doing, you can't really see it, it's kind of off camera. I'm doing that like, I'm doing this kind of shape. And if it anywhere got like a little bit too much, I tend to just kind of rub it in. Now with this product, you can just let it air dry and it will do the trick. But if you're me and you want to get it done quicker, you can press it right away. You can use pressing paper. I have found I just use my iron. Just like with any fabric stiffener, you use your iron. It could get it a little sticky, but if you just let it sit for just a minute, it tends to do the trick. And this is pretty, isn't really that damp or anything. It dries pretty quickly, but we're going to just press with your iron. I have it on hot in the highest setting. And this is essentially just kind of drying it really quick for us. But you can just let it air dry if you want to do all your fabrics at one time, walk away, come back to it later. Okay. And it stiffens it up. Pull this off. Okay. I'm going to cut the squares close to the size that I indicated on the pattern. Just grab my ruler and my rotary cutter. Now in the pattern, like I said, I would cut 4.5. For this, I'm going to do 4.25 by 4.25. Just cut all the way along the side because this is 10 inches, so I'll be able to get 2 of the large ones. And we can save that piece because that piece we can just pretty much just cut it right in half, and this will get that tiny little piece that we need, that 1.5 inch. We also need a 3. So how many we got here? We've got 5 3/4. So we need like around a 3.5 and a 2.5. So we're gonna do the 3 1/4, and then we'll use the rest over here. 3 1/4. And I'm not being like super accurate over here. Like I said, this is Scraps work great for this. We're going to be cutting off the edges anyway, so you could even eyeball it. And that makes exactly 2.5. And then we still have plenty of leftovers. All right, so what we need to do now is what I would typically do, and I have already have them cut, just so that I'm not cutting all night long here for you. What I would do is I'd cut out all the pieces that I need, and I would layer them, and I would stack them together and cut them all at one time. Now these, I'm just going to cut out 2 of each at a time, but I'll show you. I've already cut out all the other ones, and I cut them all at the same time, but we're going to cut these out together. So here's our tiny little teardrop, our 2.5 inch, 3.5 inch, 4.5. And as you can see, even the 3 1/4, it fits. I just give that extra 1/4 of an inch for safety. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut them out. And with all of them together, I like to use a pin or a clip. I don't have a clip within reach, so I'm going to use a pin to pin these in place. And the fabric stiffener, what that does is it not only does it stiffen it for you and make it semi-paper-like, it also helps to prevent fraying. Now, fabric stiffener, if you wash it, it will come out. But since this is a decoration for a garland, it won't be getting washed, so we don't have to worry about that. And the stiffener also helps when trying to kind of fold the fabric to kind of make it 3-dimensional. Let me show you an example. So I'm able to, kind of pulling that string really hard, kind of pinch it and it stays up for me. That fabric stiffener allows for that dimension to happen as well. All right. These are really big scissors for a very small thing. I have a smaller pair. Okay. And the final one. All right. So next what you're going to want to do is grab everything that you've cut, and we're going to layer them so they all have the different colors. So I have 4 colors. Varying colors of pinks, teals, purples, blues. And we're going to want some pins for this next step. Just kind of helps to hold it together. So depending on the length of your garland, that will determine how many you make. For tonight's live, I am making 8. And if you're like me, I like to kind of have a pattern here. So I'm going to look at the colors and see. I really think that dark will look really nice against there. Nope, that's going to have to go, I think, over here. We're going to make it like that. Some sort of order. I feel like I'm missing. I am missing some. Well, we might just be one short. Oh, nope, there it is. I knew I cut them all. There we go. So now it's going to go down one. So let's see, the dark pink is here. So the dark pink is going to go right there. The blue will come up, or the teal, if you want to call it that. Well, and the little teardrops. So the pen will just be lining them up and kind of holding them in place as you get it under the sewing machine. Once you've got them in there, this also prevents losing pieces. All right, so I did notice a mistake I made on this one, which I'll be the first to point out that I made a mistake. I did not line up my fabric right, and I have 2 pink hearts when I cut them. I must have been rushing. That don't have a point, but if I were not doing this live, I'd probably take the time to go get that fabric and cut it again. But we're just gonna sew it tonight. It's okay. And this one will get the heart. So at this point, I am going to move over to my other camera where I will check the feed, and I'm also going to begin sewing. What you're going to do for sewing these is I do what's called chain sewing. So if you're not familiar with that term, I'm going to start sewing, and I'm going to go directly in the, whatever that's called, of the heart, and go straight down. I'm going to go through all 4 layers, and then I'm going to lift my presser foot up, and I'm going to put my next one in there. I'm going to sew one after another. I'm not going to cut in between, and what that does is it prevents having all that extra string, and I'll just kind of trim it at each one. But I will back stitch up here, and I will back stitch down here so that it holds the stitches in. So I'm going to move over to the other camera and my sewing machine, check the feed, and sew these all together. Okay, so here we go. Chain stitched. We're going to cut them apart. And what I love about just this project in general is, yes, I gave you a template for a heart, but this is so easy and simple. Imagine all the other shapes you could do. Shamrocks, stars, very simple. I'm all about simple decorations, and this is really quick and easy, something to pull together. And besides, I think really the longest thing is cutting, and the next part can take some time if you make them yourself. So we have, this is the main attraction, pieces ready to go, but we want to add a little bit more fun to this and not just our fabric hearts. So we are going to add some pom-poms. Now I do have already made pom-poms, and they are from a company that ThermOWeb partners with on occasion. It's called Benzie Felt, and they make, and this is the bag it came in. I have them in an old container so that I can see them. These adorably fun felt balls, or they call them pom-poms. They come in all different sizes. I love them. These are the 1-inch size. I believe the medium is what they are, but they come in smaller. I have these smaller ones too, which I've used in other projects. I have a dream catcher that I used them on, even smaller sizes. So sweet. So, but this is why I chose those colors. So we're going to be using these type of palms, but not only that, we're going to use pom-poms that you can make yourself. And I've already made several, but I will make some on camera for you all to see. What you'll need for that is some yarn, and you could make your own tool out of cardboard, or you can use a fork. I'm going to use this little fun thing I have that I bought, and it comes in 4 sizes. This is a game changer, and you will see why as I show you how to use it. So we're going to first, so it comes like this. It's kind of flimsy, and you might be thinking, like, does this thing really work? But it does. So, and actually it comes apart. That's why it's flimsy, but it has to come apart in order for it to work. So we're going to put it together, and we're going to hold it like so. And you're going to start wrapping that yarn, and I just kind of tucked that piece up in there around this arc. And you can be very meticulous and make it perfectly line up, or you can go anywhere and all over the place, as long as you don't come over those feet. And the more you fill it in, the more filled in your pom-pom will be. And then once you are happy with how filled that is, I always kind of close it, and then I trim this right here. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. So however it is comfortable for you to hold it. I kind of change the way I hold things just depending on the angle or the direction. I sat and made all these while watching a football game. So multitasking at its finest, but it was very easy to do. I don't even have to watch myself wrap this. I just wrap, feel that it's done. Clip. Now for this, you will need some scissors like these ones that are a little more very fine tip. Sometimes these kits, you can get them in kits and they come with a little pair of scissors. They work okay. But you need to be able to get in here. So you see there's like this gap. Just kind of get your scissors up in there. Sometimes the first cut's just the hardest. And then once you get in there, it's easy. And then you got to do it to the other side. Definitely do not open it up at this point, or you will have tiny little pieces of yarn everywhere. Okay, and then you will need to cut another piece. And in between each of these, you wrap that yarn up in there and tie. I always do with 2 different double knots. I try not to pull too hard because I have broken it. So I do 1, 2, and then I flip it, and I do 2 more on this side. Pulling just about as hard as I can. I could probably pull a little harder, but I'd probably break it. 2. And now this is where you open it up. 1, 2, and open it apart. And you have yourself a pom-pom that needs a haircut. So let me grab something to give it a haircut with. I just don't want to create a huge mess. So I'm going to cut it. I always like to hold onto this string first, kind of fluff it, see where I need to give it a little haircut, and just start trimming away. I mean, of course you want to cut off that big one. I give it a little roll. Looks pretty good. And with all these pom-poms made and our felted poms all ready, it's time for assembly. So for this, I just used yarn. This went through the poms really well. It went through the fabric really well. And what you need to use is a needle that will go through the poms, but also through the fabric and through these poms. And the needle I'm using is this needle. I got this through Benzie felt. Let me show you the back. It's called actually called a Garland needle. It doesn't say it on here, but that is what it's called. Garland needle. It is got a bigger end, so you can definitely get thicker string through it, and it does have a point, and it is sharp if you press hard enough. That way you can get it into there. As for length, that all really depends on the length you need for your specific project. I'm not going to cut this. I will keep it intact as I add things, and then I will cut it at the very end. The hardest part is trying to get it threaded. Okay. So for this, what I did looks like I did a heart, and then I did a pom, and then a homemade pom-pom, and then a pom. So we're going to start with that. And I came from, actually, let's do our, I guess you want to figure out your design. So we'll figure out with 4, and then we'll repeat it. So we're going to do a heart. And for this one, I'm going to use the darker. I didn't use these really dark ones in my first one, so I'm going to use these definitely. And then again, the bright pinks and the light pink. So we're going to do dark. Let's keep the pink. We'll just keep the pinks together, and then we'll keep the greens together. We'll use this color. No, that color. Such fun. And then we're going to do dark, light. We'll actually switch it. Put pink in the middle. And then over here, we'll do dark and pink. And then we'll do this green. And we don't need that color. I'm just thinking out loud here, everybody. And then we go dark, light, and we have dark pink. So that will be our pattern. Okay, so we're going to come in from the back, and I come in so that it's hidden. So it's going to be behind this part of the heart. And it goes, this needle goes through the fabric very easily. I say that, and then it doesn't want to go through. Let's go pretty far down. I'd rather have extra at the end and have to cut it off. And now we want it to be hidden, so we're going to, it's going to come over the top and back through. And you don't want it to be pulled too tight, or as you can see, since when I pulled it down off the wall, my other garland, it started to scrunch up like that. So you want to make sure that that lays nice and flat, just right behind it. Okay. Now these poms, it is tricky to get them in, but these are meant for these. You just have to push it through. And on camera, it's a little harder for me to do because I'm holding everything out here, so I might tuck my arms in like this. There we go. Because I just have a little bit more leverage when I do that. So that, and then it goes through this very easily. And as you notice, I'm kind of pinching that to get as much through that as possible. And there is our first set. So I'll do another one. We're going to come in from the bottom, from the back, behind the next heart so we don't see where it's coming in at. And if you want to get really, you can measure these if you really want. I'm going to eyeball it, and we're going to go over the top and then back through on the other side. And then again, and then I'll do the pom-poms again. I'll do this set, and I might just do these 4 because I could sit here a lot and watch me for another half an hour and just put these through. It would not take me half an hour to do this. But if you want, I can do another pom-pom if you want to watch that again at the very end. Now they're going through really nicely now. I think my fingers were they just needed conditioning. We're going to go up a little bit. All right. Almost 3 down and then 1 to go. Really more. But I think it might actually just be these red ones. I'm going to pull it closer. It's going to be off camera. There we go. And then if you notice, like we're gonna fold these up here in a minute. If you notice that they're not holding their shape, you can always spray this entire thing with the fabric stiffener again, and it will stiffen back up. And you can press it. I suggest not pressing it just now because unless you're using something, I mean, this is acrylic yarn, so depending on how hot your iron is, I don't know if it can withstand it or not. I'm not going to test it. But you can spray it and just let it air dry. If you notice, like, you know, you put it away for the year, you get it back out. Notice it's lost its stiffness. So the nice thing about the spray is that you can just spray it and let it air dry and it will stiffen back up. All right, so we're going to just do those 4. I want to show you
So because it is stiffened, you can fold these up to give them more form and dimension. They almost look like little half butterflies. Wouldn't butterflies be cute? Do a butterfly garland. Try to get all of this on the camera. And there we go. A lovely Valentine garland. Like so. I'm gonna check the feed. I'm gonna cut this and maybe I'll make one more pom-pom for those who would like to see it one more time. Let's choose a different color. Here we go. We'll go with this pretty color. As you can see, I tried finding the center pool and I couldn't find it, so we're gonna So that essentially concludes this live after I do this last pom-pom. There's a live next week maybe with Lisa. Don't quote me on that. My next live though is the first Wednesday in February, and for that we'll be making some little goodie trinket little boxes, bags. So make sure you check in for that. They'll be made just in time if you want to make them for Valentine's Day or for any of the other upcoming things this year. So I'm just wrapping it around both sides. I'm not really worried about that weird looking end. It's going to get cut off anyway once it gets cut through. This one cut a lot easier. I made it a little bit thinner. This side's a little thicker. And you can make yourself a cardboard one. It's two pieces and it looks like the letter C. You can find YouTube tutorials on how to make them, but in case you're wondering what to look for, it looks kind of like a letter C. Kind of like that, but the C comes further over because you're not doing two halves, you're doing all in one. But you can also do this on a fork. There's tutorials out there for that as well. And then we trim it. Don't get crazy with the haircut. There we go. All right. All right.
Oh yes, thank you. Next live with Lisa is the 16th. All right, well that concludes our live. Thank you all for watching. I think we're going to do the drawing. Yep, we're getting ready to draw the winner for the gift card. I really appreciate you all being on here. Those who are in the Midwest, stay warm. It is going to get really, really cold. I think it's getting cold for the South too. More cold than they're normal. So everyone stay safe and warm. And we'll wait to see who our winner is. All right, lucky winner is Kathy. Congratulations, Kathy. I will leave the live open for just another couple minutes. If there's any other questions, I'm going to go through the feed. Again, thank you all for joining. I really appreciate it, and hope to see you at Lisa's live on the 16th, as well as the next one for me, which will be February 5th. Have a good night. Till next time.